we've heard from Maharaj about Srila Rupa Goswami, Srila Sanatana Goswami. Today we'll start hearing about Bhatta Goswami. Hare Krishna.
Different melodies, and the Bhagavatam is sweet, and his singing was very sweet. And that was one of his main activities, along with chanting of the holy name. We're going to hear a little bit about his life, and we'll start with what Gora Gonadesh Tipika says who he is in his spiritual identity in Krishna's pastimes. His identity is Raga Manjari. They're all six are in the Manjari Bhav or Madhurya Bhav, assistants of Srimati Radharani. This is the years of his life. You can see he's a little younger from his date of birth than the others. But he lived a nice long life, 77 years. And he was the son of Tapan Mishra. Tapan Mishra, Brahmana, was a resident along with Chandrasekhar in a place where Lord Chaitanya spent 2 months with them. In the course of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's travel to Vrindavan and in his travel on the way back, he stayed at the house of Chandrasekhar Acharya or Chandrasekhar Vaidya in Benares, and he took his meals every day at the house of Tapan Mishra. So Raghunath Bhatta was 8 years old when this took place, and for 2 months he had very confidential services. Just an 8-year-old boy serving Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Massage Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's legs, wash his dishes, and getting his association in many different ways. So one can only imagine something similar to Gopal Bhatta. Gopal Bhatta was similar age. Lord Chaitanya stayed in his home for 4 months, Raghunath Bhatta for 2 months, and it's described that when it was time for him to leave to go to continue on to Puri, Raghunath Bhatta was devastated. He begged him, don't go, held his lotus feet, crying, little boy, crying and crying and crying. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu took him on his lap, tried to console him. You must serve your father and mother here. Same message to Gopal. And by you may come to Puri Dham and see me again. So that's what happened. He was 8 years old when this event took place. For a total of 28 years, he remained in Benares with his family. After that, he went to Vrindavan. When he was a little before 28 years old, he, with permission of his mother and father, went to visit Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in Jagannath Puri, where he stayed for 8 months. Not just the 4 months of the rainy season, but for 8 months. And many nice exchanges when he was there. Especially noted, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu took his neck beads off and gave his neck beads to Raghunath Bhatta. One can imagine he was pretty happy to receive Mahaprabhu's neck beads. And he gave him specific instruction to remain brahmachari throughout his life. After those 8 months, he returned to Benares to be with his parents. That's another 4 years. And during that period of time, instructed by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to do so, he studied Srimad Bhagavatam. It doesn't say who he studied from, but one can understand it was an elevated Vaishnav somewhere in Benares he studied from. After his parents' departure, again he went to Puri. Again, he spent another 8 months with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. By this time, he's learned and developed his cooking skills, and so he daily would cook for Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and daily Mahaprabhu would give his remnants to Raghunath Bhatta. And uh, after some time, Mahaprabhu instructed him to go to Vrindavan, and take the association in Rupa of Raghunath, Rupa and Sanatan. And he gave him another gift, a very, very long Tulsi garland down to your feet, and some betel from Lord Jagannath, which he cherished like anything. And the remainder of his life, he stayed in Vrindavan. And his main activity while in Vrindavan was reciting Srimad Bhagavatam and constant chanting of the holy name. Uh, he didn't write books for all of the other Goswami. Even Raghunath Das wasn't his main service, but he wrote 3 books. Raghunath Bhatta didn't. He just recited Srimad Bhagavatam and chanted the holy name. Uh, from his Srimad Bhagavatam recitation, there was a highly placed officer in the government of Aurangzeb, the military commander, Maharaj Man Singh. Of course, there are different versions of whose disciple Man Singh was, but most of the histories describe that it was Raghunath Bhatta's disciple. He was his disciple. He wanted to do some service, and Raghunath Bhatta instructed him to do the service of building Govindaji temple. And magnificent structure, which means before the Govindaji temple was built, it was something quite simple. Because they're Goswamis, they don't have wealth. But someone came along, Man Singh came along. Man Singh has a very important role to play in the whole of India, but without all that history, he was his disciple and took responsibility to build the Govindaji temple. It took many years, but a magnificent structure. In the place where his bhajan kutir is, there's this glass case. Generally, they keep it covered, but if you ask, they'll very kindly take the cover off and show you the it's not the original, because it would be yellowed and worn and so forth, but it's a reproduction of the Srimad Bhagavatam that Raghunath Bhatta used and reciting Srimad Bhagavatam. So page after page after page. Here's a close-up of one of those pages. His character, like some other Vaishnavas that are mentioned, that come to mind specifically, Haridas Pandit has similar characteristics. That is, he would never hear blasphemy of a Vaishnav. Not that he thought that all Vaishnavas are perfect, but he had the understanding that they're engaged in Krishna service, and that's what's important. He didn't want to correct them. He didn't want to hear bad things about them. He didn't speak bad things about them. He didn't want to speak of their any misbehavior. Again, it's not to say, the way it's described in Chaitanya Charitamrita about Haridas Pandit, he was a pujari at the Govindaji temple, and he was a reciter of Srimad Bhagavatam. Haridas Pandit became the spiritual master of Gangamata Goswamini. But it's not described like that in the Bhagavatam, excuse me, in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. It just says like this. He was so averse to hearing criticism of Vaishnavas that no one would dare come before him and speak something, some criticism or some misbehavior. Even if it was something legitimate, he just didn't hear it. Prabhupada comments, very short purport. He says, in this world, with everything, there's qualities and faults, guna and dosha. With everything in this world, there's quality and faults. So it's not that Haridas Pandit or that Raghunath Bhatta Goswami couldn't see the quality and the faults, but he would overlook the faults and see the quality and encourage the devotee. Now, there may have been some relationships where he brought to someone's attention something that needed improvement, but in general, this is a very, very outstanding characteristic of him. He didn't criticize. He didn't permit people to come before him and criticize. And for that matter, he didn't even discuss worldly matters. He was interested in the Bhagavatam. Again, like the glass case that has the reproduction of his Sanskrit verses, or the whole Srimad Bhagavatam in that glass case. Here's his shoes, and they're brought out once a year on his appearance day, and with a gentle request, the pujaris will bring this out, his shoes. And we're almost done. Here is a place where there's the Pushpa Samadhi of 3 Goswamis. Now, one of those Goswamis is Krishnadas Kaviraj, so not one of the 6. But here's their samadhis sequentially. On the far left side, Raghunath Bhatta, and in the middle, Krishnadas Kaviraj, and on the far right is Raghunath Das Goswami. There's their Pushpa Samadhis. And there's the up close, it doesn't have that gold lettering on his Pushpa Samadhi. It has the other script on the Pushpa Samadhi. But that's it for Raghunath Bhatta Goswami, one of the youngest of the 6 Goswamis, and great personality. So here's a nice painting, a more updated painting version of the 6 Goswamis, because we've now completed describing all 6. The next, I guess it's going to be Monday evening, we'll go through the entire Sad Goswami Astaka. Sing it together and go through the verses, the 8 verses. So Srinivasacharya was the author. We already mentioned that. Who was Srinivasacharya? He, Narottam, and Shamananda were the next in line following Jiva Goswami. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Rupa and Sanatan, Jiva Goswami, Srinivasa and Narottam, and Shamananda along with them, but those 2 are primarily mentioned in the next in line in disciplic succession. So naturally, following the 6 Goswamis, Srinivasacharya wrote this very beautiful song in glorification of the 6 Goswamis, and not a singularly dedicated song, but there's several stanzas in this, one of the ISKCON favorite verses or songs, Hari Haraya Nama Krishna Yadavaya Namaha, Gopal, Govindaram, Sri Madhusudan, etc. Just the names of Krishna, the names of Hari, Nam Sankirtan. However, in that verse, in that song, there's 4 verses written by Narottam, specifically glorifying the 6 Goswamis. Here's the first one, Sri Rup Sri Sanatan Bhatta Raghunath, Sri Jiva Gopal Bhatta Dasa Raghunath. And anyone who's been around for a while has heard that sequence many, many times. Sri Rupa Sri Sanatan Bhatta Raghunath, Sri Jiva Gopal Bhatta Dasa Raghunath. That's the 6. All glories to Sri Rupa Goswami, Sanatan Goswami, Raghunath Bhatta, Sri Jiva Goswami, Gopal Bhatta, and Raghunath Das Goswami. And the next line, Ichai Gosai Kodi Charana Vadan. I offer my obeisances to the feet of these 6 Goswamis, Charana Vandan. Bowing to them destroys all obstacles to devotional service and fulfills all spiritual desires. Those sound like 2 very nice benedictions. All obstacles destroyed and all spiritual desires fulfilled. So let's bow down so that our obstacles are destroyed and spiritual desires are fulfilled. Then, same again, H.I. Gosai. I am the servant of that person who is a servant of these 6 Goswamis. The dust, Padarenu, the dust of their feet is my 5 kind of foodstuffs, Mora Panchagras. Next, Tadirachara Sebi Bhakti Bhakta Sanivas. This is my desire. Birth after birth, I may live with those devotees who serve the lotus feet of these 6 Goswamis. We were mentioning yesterday about 5 times, and here we are again. It's a principle. It's a Gaudiya Vaishnava principle of placing oneself at the feet of exalted Vaishnavas and appealing to those exalted Vaishnavas for their mercy. So Narottam is one such person, displaying this characteristic. He wants to, birth after birth, live with those devotees who serve the lotus feet of the 6 Goswamis. He wants, that's an appeal for sadhu sangha, but through the medium of those who are at the feet of the 6 Goswamis. And the last slide in the last line from his song, H.I. Gosai, same beginning, Jabe Braje Koila Vas, Radha Krishna Nitya Lila, Karila Prakash. When these 6 Goswamis lived in Braja, they revealed the lost holy places, Radha Krishna Nitya Lila, Karila Prakash, and explained the eternal pastimes of Radha and Krishna. So they wrote books and established the holy places. When Lord Chaitanya instructed Raghunath Bhatta to go to Vrindavan, as he had instructed Gopal Bhatta to go to Vrindavan, to stay in the association of Rupa and Sanatan, and to assist them. So Lord Chaitanya was looking to Rupa and Sanatan. All the Vaishnavas that are contemporaries were looking to Rupa and Sanatan. And they're the leaders. They're the leaders. They're the leaders in the Krishna Lila manifestation of themselves, and they're the leaders in the Gora Lila manifestation of themselves. But, whether one is in the leader or the follower position, they're very happy to be in Rupa and Sanatan's association. If you recall, some of you may not have been with us.
Hare Krishna devotees. We'll pause here. Any devotee wants to add something, share from this lecture? Yes, Sharbari Mataji, please go ahead.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Very nice to know about Raghunath Bhatta Goswami. He was so elevated in spite of not writing even a single book. And what particularly about him is that particular characteristic which Maharaj also played, that he never would criticize any Vaishnava. He would not want to hear anything about any Vaishnava, any negative quality or any criticism. So I was wondering that if this particular quality can be picked up by us, then that would itself help us progress a lot in spiritual life. So that I just wanted to highlight. Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji. Yes, that's the one of the key takeaways from today's lecture is that aspect, Mataji, where he didn't even want to hear any blasphemy and want to speak or speaking about them. So that's a glorious quality, Mataji. Yes. Thank you for sharing, Mataji. Hare Krishna. Any other devotee?
Hare Krishna Prabhu. I was also struck by the same quality of Raghunath Bhatta Goswami. And in the recent yatra, I came across a devotee who had these qualities. Preeti Lakshana Mataji from Chicago. Many of you might know her. She has some sterling qualities, very much appreciated by Guru Maharaj also several times. And in a bus, one lady was traveling in the previous bus, and she was by mistake left in a spot when she went to the washroom with others. They didn't realize that she hadn't come back, and that bus had left. So that lady was standing and stranded in a foreign country. Definitely, it would have been scary for her. So the authorities there, they stopped our bus and she got in. She was really very much upset. And in the next place where people were gathering together, some few of the 4 or 5 Matajis were there. I was also standing there. And they were telling that how did they leave that woman there? See, what was the bus coordinator doing? This, that. And somebody else was also criticizing. And Preeti Lakshana Mataji said, see, they had a single coordinator for 2 buses. Now they have allotted one for our bus. It will not happen again. No, so let's leave it. So I was immediately struck with that quality of, see, people are trying their level best to do their best service. Some happens, then everybody starts blaming the coordinators and the organizers for things like this. Yes, of course, it was difficult for that lady, but then immediately she said no, no. So they have allotted a separate coordinator for the bus. It will not happen again. So let's leave it. So that is the quality of not fault finding and not willing to listen to somebody criticizing others. I was really struck with her great sterling quality. Very nice devotee. And I thought I should be like that.
Thanks a lot for sharing this, Mataji. Very, very nice to hear your glorification about another devotee. So yes, this is one aspirational point of not wanting to find fault, hear about the faults or talk about them. Yes, so, and in this particular case where Raghunath Bhatta Goswami was understanding that everybody is in Krishna's service, that's what Maharaj mentioned, that everybody is engaged some or other in Krishna's service, so he didn't want to find faults or even look at them. Thank you. Yes, any other devotee wants to share any other points from these lectures? Please do so. Vilay Prabhu, you want to share something?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dhanvi
Oh,
Pranam.
Hare Krishna, Mataji. Please go ahead.
Prabhu, I think the main point, what we all are discussing is the same thing, that
Yes.
he had such an elevated mode that he could see everyone doing only this Krishna service. So it was his view that he couldn't see anything else apart from Krishna service in everyone's. But everyone doesn't have those kind of eyes. Definitely, we don't have those kind of eyes. And in that case, I think we have already discussed that who should actually look for something if at all there is anything wrong, and who should try to correct it. But um, I mean, to get those kind of eyes, basically we will have to serve. That's what I understand, because getting those eyes are, that is what we are striving for. All our effort of associating, reading, everything is to get those eyes, if I am understanding right.
Yes, Mataji.
Yeah. Okay, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Yeah. Vilay Prabhu, you want to add something? Nitin Mandrai Prabhu, you want to add 1 or 2 points?
Uh, I think Prabhuji already covered nothing today, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Okay, Hare Krishna. Sanatana Goparaj Prabhu, you want to say something?
Hare Krishna Prabhu,
Hare Krishna.
Raghunath Bhatta Goswami was well known for the Bhagavatam recitation, and
Yes.
people used to relish his recitation of Bhagavatam. And of course, finding fault, just remember, anybody if you find fault with, if they have not done anything and if you criticize them, then the karma of that person who criticized will also go to the person who is criticizing. Nobody will criticize if they know that they are taking the karma of the person if they unnecessarily criticize the person. So finding fault is very bad, and criticizing for wrong reasons is also very bad. It would certainly will not help the spiritual journey. And for that, the main thing is a person must be humble. When a person is humble and with humility, if he does the service, he will never find fault with others. That is the most important thing. And really, the Raghunatha Bhatta Goswami, and they are all pure devotees. They think everybody on the same level. They will find only good things on others. That is the one of the. All the Goswamis are great, and we should follow their footsteps. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot, Prabhu. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot for bringing that out, following in the footsteps of great acharyas. And just 1 or 2 points which I would want to add here. So one is regarding this this fault finding part. I've heard before that there is a spectrum. The spectrum is, on the one end, you have as Maharaj mentioned in the lecture, there are the qualities and doshas, the good qualities and the bad qualities. So there are people can be will fall anywhere in this spectrum. One is they see both good and bad, and the one set of people focus only on the bad, that is absolute fault finding. For example, Duryodhana. On the other side of the spectrum, the person sees good and bad, but focuses only on the good qualities. For example, Yudhishthir Maharaj, or even for example Raghunath Bhatta Goswami. And somewhere in between would be all of us. That is, we see both good and bad. some people will focus only on the bad or talk about the bad. For example, which Kumarika Mataji brought out now, that the devotees were discussing how the bus driver or the coordinator couldn't wait for them. On the another level is they see good and bad, and they chose to ignore both. And another set of people is they see good and bad, and they focus on the good qualities. For example, which Preeti Lakshan Mataji, for example, I wouldn't be perfectly right, but in this instance, so that is one thing. And yes, our aspirational stage is we will be seeing both good and bad in anyone, and our aspiration is to focus on the good. So that is one. And another thing from the lecture which Maharaj very nicely brought about is he showed the Bhagavatam which Raghunath Bhatta Goswami was reading and his Padukas. And when he mentioned that, yeah, it was very nice that Maharaj mentioned that we gently request. So that part I liked a lot when Maharaj mentioned that you don't go and ask them to give it. You gently request them, and then the people who are managing that, the pujaris or whoever, the temple coordinators, they would give that paraphernalia of Raghunath Bhatt. So that aspect of requesting gently, so that part was something which was very nice. Thank you, thank you, devotees. Yes, Shamkun Prabhu, you want to add something, Prabhu? You want to share your thoughts? Please do so, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Narad Prabhu.
One of the aspects of Raghunath Bhatta Goswami, which Sanatan Goparaj Prabhu said, was that he could recite Srimad Bhagavatam in various tunes, which he was amplifying what Maharaj had said. I just wish that we revive this recitation of Bhagavatam in 4 different tunes, like what Raghunath Bhatta Goswami had. Maybe it's there somewhere, somebody knows it. Like I definitely know there is in Kerala, they have one kind of tune for recitation. And maybe in East India or maybe even in Vrindavan, there is another tune. But probably there are 4 different tunes for each verses. And it doesn't mean just 4 tunes. It means different verses have different tunes. And in that different itself, there are 4 varieties. So somebody may question, why is it so important to recite it in these 4 different tunes? Bhagavatam and many other scriptures like this evoke a feeling of belongingness in us about the Supreme Lord and about the persons being mentioned there. And many times we let go of the Sanskrit words or even the music behind it, the poetry behind it, the tune behind it, etc. And we sometimes struggle to and say that, hey, I'm just not getting any connection with the scripture. It seems so dry. But sometimes what we fail to see is it's a combination of these things which actually help a conditioned soul like us. For a liberated soul, they may not even need the tune, they may not need the Sanskrit, just a translation itself would be sufficient. They would get it, or a very elevated soul would get it. But for us at our level, sometimes all these things are required. And one of the things, so that was one point. Second point is that Raghunath Bhatta Goswami Maharaj said that he never discussed worldly matters. And this can serve as a guideline for us too, especially in the sense that sometimes when when we are asked to give lectures, sometimes we find we speak a lot about worldly stuff. And we speak a lot about worldly stuff because in our consciousness, we are thinking a lot about the worldly stuff. It is one thing to take the worldly stuff and relate it to the audience. And the other aspect is to not especially relate to the worldly stuff, but to stay in it. For example, um, sometimes we speak, sometimes devotees misunderstand that a spiritual class or a lecture on Bhagavatam, they relate it to the culture, etc. And finally, it boils down to the culture of India, the greatness of India, etc. And that's, in one sense, just a worldly stuff, saying something that belongs to boundaries of India alone. It's too much emphasis on it as a worldly stuff. Srila Prabhupada rather went to the essence of that culture and related it to the scripture, but not so much about the greatness of India as such. He didn't do that from that angle. He was talking about the greatness of the culture, not the greatness of the physical territories of the land, so to say. So that's the second point to learn, to be very cautious and careful in discussing worldly matters. It's not just about in classes, but even when we as devotees meet each other, many times there is an urge to speak, but in the urge to speak, we end up taking a worldly matter and discussing many things about it. And why does that happen? It happens because we have not spent enough time either in reading or hearing the Shastra. And therefore, and even after, if you spend time in reading or hearing the Shastra, we do it superficially. So we don't, or we hear it superficially. And so we don't get something of valuable that is staying within our heart. And so what we do when we meet people, we only discuss things other than scriptures, either because we have not spent enough time with them, or even if you have spent enough time, we have not gone deep into it. And many of us face a problem. How do I go deep into the scriptures? Like Raghunath Bhatta Goswami used to recite Bhagavatam and he used to relish it. Raghunath Das Goswami was also present and he would speak about the Leela of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So Raghunath Bhatta Goswami would speak about Bhagavatam and sing. Raghunath Das Goswami would speak about the Leela of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu related to what Raghunath Bhatta Goswami would say. Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami was in the audience, and based on these two, he composed the Chaitanya Charitamrita. So this leads to the third part. Many of us think that, hey, I am just a small fellow, nobody would know much about me. And Raghunath Bhatta Goswami, although a big time person during the time of the six Goswamis in Vrindavan, there is no visible work that he has left aside. And he was just a cook for Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. But even though he was a cook, by Mahaprabhu's mercy, he got the essence of all the Bhagavatam's teachings and he laid the foundation for others. And mothers would relate to it very much. For mothers, their greatest joy is in seeing their own children thrive. They say, it's okay for me to go in the background, but I want my child to grow up. It's an extended projection of oneself. And why do we do this extended projection of oneself? Because we don't have examples like Raghunath Bhatta Goswami or motivations like Raghunath Bhatta Goswami who would say, it's okay for me to come in the background, but let the next set of devotees relish it. This mood of being a servant of a servant is very important, that let others benefit. Uh, and that's very, very critical or important in our own lives too. And we see from Raghunath Bhatta Goswami, that was the third point, but the fourth point is connected to this third one, that he was in the background, and yet he, along with Raghunath Das Goswami, were instrumental in speaking to Man Singh to get the temple of Radha Govindji constructed. It was a huge temple at that time in Vrindavan, and it was destroyed. But what after destruction we see two stories. Before destruction, I think it was 5 or 7 stories. So you can imagine how big it would be. And when you talk to somebody like a king, you don't talk to him directly. He will have his ministers and then representatives of his ministers. And some of you are in the workforce. You would know that many times for you to advance yourself, you'll have to do what is called as networking. Go and speak to people, speak something that is relevant to them, etc. And here was Raghunath Das Goswami wanting to speak only about Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Raghunath Bhatta Goswami also about Mahaprabhu and also about the recitation of Srimad Bhagavatam, etc. Focused in this, and yet they came out of their internal realizations to do something external. They, of course, the Paramatma inspired Mansingh and his courtiers, but there is a lot of practical work to be done. In fact, those of you who are from Bangalore, if you ever buy a property in Bangalore, you get to have something called as a khata. A khata is a record of revenue and other things for that particular piece of land or apartment. And to get that piece of khata is a big pain from the government office today. And Raghunath Das Goswami and Raghunath Bhatta Goswami, they got the khata done all the way for Mansingh and Akbar, that this piece of land belonged to so and so person, and after me, it is this person who's going to be owning it. The will, the living testament, all of this practical stuff, although deeply involved in Radha Krishna's Leela, so much so that they were seeing Radha and Krishna in their internal meditation. They would see them in front of their eyes also. So much doing, and yet something practical. So, whatever Goswamis have told us is, as far as service to other devotees is concerned, there is no limit. Do whatever it takes to serve other devotees. And to do so, it requires not just blindly service, it requires a nice strategy, like how the Goswamis um, propagated Krishna consciousness in Braja, which had almost shrunk into non-existence, by cultivating appropriate relationships. So that's the fourth point here. And finally, about this aspect, I mean, you all covered the aspect of the criticism of Vaishnavas. It's a big topic, and I don't think I'll get into that now. But there's another aspect that I want to cover here, which is that in one's internal realization, um, let me ask here. Harisham Prabhu, are you in the call? No, he's not there. Okay. Maybe I'll address this some other time, next time then. Maybe next tomorrow's session I'll address this. Okay, that's it. Thank you, Prabhu.
Thanks a lot, Prabhu. Very wonderfully, again, the essence and elaboration, Prabhu. And very nicely connecting so many things which we see on a daily basis. Thanks a lot, Prabhu. Any other devotees want to add some final comments or?
I just wanted to say thank you to Shamkan Prabhu. Um, um, Shamkan Prabhu was giving the example of mother, but I was only reflecting. I don't know in what context, but I was just thinking that we give examples of mothers that okay, she is selfless and something, but if you see in a broader perspective, even mothers are not good, because mothers don't feel good if instead of their child, someone else is growing up, uh, surpassing their kids. And so I was thinking that whatever, at least for me, whatever I say, whatever good I want to showcase myself, or I'm doing this good or that good, but at the end I am not able to see someone better than me or mine, at least deep in the heart. I am not out of that. So I remembered what I was thinking when Shankan Prabhu said, thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you. Yeah, it's a big conditioning problem for most of us. And it's given in Srimad Bhagavatam, Janasya moho ayam aham mameti. The biggest moha that binds us is aham and mama. This is mine. This child of mine, this house of mine, this country of mine, everything. All this mama is a big problem. And our spiritual discipline in the Sampradaya of Rupa Goswami is very simple. Says that you make Krishna as mama, and whoever is Krishna's is also as mama. Don't let go of the mama there that way. That's all.
Yes, thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you, Mataji. Thank you, all devotees. We'll pause for today. वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपासिन्धुभ्यः एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय, श्री प्रभुपाद की जय, गौर प्रेमानंद।